Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Cedar Falls Board of Education with a reminder that the actions taken at this table will focus on our students and their achievement. With that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Jenny Leeper, and do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Sasha. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on now to item C on the agenda, public comment.
We had one person that called in, but he's not in the audience, so my assumption is we do not have any.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on now to item D on the agenda, communications.
Hello, it's great to see everyone again. A few beginning school year things we're going to talk about right now as we'll bring up the communications update. First, just wanted to do a big congratulations to our marching band. They were selected as the best band in performance at the Iowa State Fair Parade and awarded the Governor's Cup for 2019. And that was after practicing, I think, maybe just 4 days before they went down there in March. So that was a big congratulations to all of them. And they're, of course, continuing to practice and rehearse for the season that's coming up. Did also want to mention the fall sports kickoff will be a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, August 20th, up at the high school stadium on the north side of the high school. You'll get to meet all the teams and coaches. The marching band, cheer, dance performance will happen, and you can get dinner as well at 6. The program will be at 7. So we hope we'll have the whole community come out to support our student athletes as they kick off their sports seasons that actually started today with their practices. So good luck to all of them. Important note, our elementary backpack nights are going to be Thursday, August 22nd, 4:30 to 6 at all 7 of our elementary buildings. And an also important thing to note will be teacher assignments are going to be emailed this Friday to parents. So that information will be arriving by email on this Friday. We're still getting kids registered and kind of figuring some things out, so it won't be ready before that, but will be Friday you'll be able to get your teacher assignments. And then the first day of school is coming up, Monday, August 22nd, just 2 weeks from today. 26th. I say it and see it, right? I'm saying 26th. Monday, August 26th. We'll have our first day of school. And then this is the elementary first week schedule. All of our elementary students, we have input conferences with them and with their parents. So because that runs some evenings during that week, we have the elementaries dismiss at 1:50 that whole first week. Then the regular schedule begins on September 3rd after Labor Day, and that regular schedule does include the 1:50 dismissal on Wednesdays, but the regular dismissal of 3:45 on the other 4 days of the week. And we also have a little bit of a tweak in schedules for first day for secondary, but only if you are a new student, you'll come kind of at the regular start time, but that information will be posted and sent out to parents as well. I don't want to say anything terribly incorrect right now, so parents will be receiving that information. And then we also are excited, our first day of preschool is going to be Tuesday, September 3rd. So those preschool students don't actually start the same day as the K-12, but they'll start Tuesday, September 3rd. And of course, information will be going out to all those parents as well. And we're really excited to have some new classrooms opening in some of the buildings that have had renovations that'll be ready this fall. Also wanted to mention the RST mobile app that we have for all of our high school and junior high activities, athletics and activities. This pulls from the Missouri Valley Conference schedule. So if you have any questions about if your kid is just starting junior high or just starting a new sport this fall, download this app, and this is where the most accurate information is up to date as far as times and locations for all of the sports in the district. And then we definitely encourage everyone to either search and post the hashtag CF Schools First Day on that first day of school when you have all those great first day photos. And then we'll be using a lot of those across the district in our buildings to share. But if you want to see all those posts, you can definitely just search the hashtag as well. Also want to mention the Golden Age Pass. Again, we have lots of activities ramping up. This is for those that meet the criteria of age 62 or above and live in the Cedar Falls School District. And then you can get admittance to all of the home activities. All you have to do is just go to the high school main office or call 553-2503 to get your pass. Also wanted to do a quick push for paraeducator positions. We have positions across the district in many buildings. And you can definitely just give Lori Bruns in our HR office a call, 553-2443, for more information. But we think it's kind of a good position for any parents that are looking to maybe go back to work once all the kids are in school, because it works within the hours of the school day. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media as we kick off the school year. Thank you.
Any questions for Janelle?
I do have one. What do we use for emergency notification to parents? Is that through Power School?
Yeah, actually, it's an app that we take and pull from Power School, so it automatically goes out to families based on their contact information. They can opt in and out of different ways that they would want to be contacted, either by phone, text messages, or emails, or they can select all three if that's how they'd prefer.
Yeah, so when they register, the information they put in there pulls into the system that does the notifications.
So there's nothing that parents
Nothing
have
extra
to do
they
to
have to
sign
do.
up?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to item E on the agenda, the approval of substantial completion of the Orchard Hill food service equipment.
Yes,
Dr. Patty.
and we have a short PowerPoint for this as well that shows the substantial completion of the Orchard Hill kitchen equipment for this August 12th. Next slide shows you the contract amount, the original budget. Original contract sum was $132,716. There were no other anticipated expenses. However, during the finalization of the kitchen, the water was a little harder for some of the kitchen equipment that was within those specifications, so there was an addition of a water softener for Orchard Hill at a cost of $3,134. So you can see added into the top number with the original budget, the total expended was $135,850. That has now been completely finalized and installed. It's been a wonderful addition to Orchard Hill, which we're really excited about. However, you can see that we are over budget that water softener cost of $3,134. The next slide just shows a few of the pictures for those that haven't seen it. It is just a wonderful change for Orchard Hill, especially with the cafeteria and then the kitchen equipment that's off of that cafeteria, as most people that have been in the old areas of Orchard Hill prior to the remodel and addition, there was really not a kitchen at all. Everything was shipped into the old gym cafetorium where kids ate between PE cycles and between music cycles, and this is just tremendously upgraded and much more beneficial for kids and our staff.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Patty? Do I have a motion to approve the substantial completion of Orchard Hill?
I move that the Cedar Falls Community School District Board of Education accept the Orchard Hill Elementary School Food Service Equipment Project. All claims for materials furnished, labor performed, and/or services provided on this contract must be filed within the next 30 days.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on now to item F, set the date, time, and location for a bond issuance public hearing. Dr. Patty.
So it just does not do it justice when we have a one-sentence summary in a board packet that talks about issuance of $10 million of bonds. But simply, this is to call for a public hearing, because we have to have a public hearing before we actually issue revenue bonds. But this is the first phase and the first step of the high school project, which is really exciting. And that's why I wanted to just spend some time to talk about this. Even though we're just setting the public hearing, this is the process and the start of not the $69.9 million that we had for our bond referendum, the general obligation bond. This is the other 43-point-some million dollars that we said we would utilize the 1-cent sales tax revenue. So this is the first start. We want to make sure that we start that process. $10 million allows us to start moving forward with the project and the process with some of the design work, some of the other site work and needs that need to be done over the next 5 to 8 months. However, this is for the revenue bonds and the sales tax through 2029. So it's that first dollar allocation to be able to start this process moving forward. So a very exciting time. It's something that's maybe does not have a lot of the in-depth detail at this time within the board packet, but I wanted to highlight that this is personally exciting, I think for our school district exciting, and certainly something that's really going to shape the vision of education for the next 70 years in Cedar Falls. So I think that it was very important just to mention a few items. So again, this just sets the public hearing. So at the next meeting, we'd have the public hearing and go through the process of starting that bonding, and again, very much allocated in Iowa code as far as the detailed steps that we must take, but this is just that step of setting the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Cedar Falls Community School District Board of Directors adopt the resolution to set September 9th, 2019, 5:30 p.m. at the City of Cedar Falls City Hall, 220 Clay Street, Cedar Falls, Iowa, as the date and time for the public hearing on the proposed issuance of approximately $10 million school infrastructure, sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds as presented.
Thank you, Alan. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? This will be a roll call vote.
President Coyle,
Yes.
Director Heisterkamp,
Yes.
Director Hines,
Yes.
Director Lieper,
Yes.
Director Orvis,
Yes.
Director Wolpert.
Yes.
Thank you.
Voting yes. All right, thank you. Moving on now to the discussion of the 2019-2020 legislative priorities, and Andy, I included those in your board packet.
This is just a time for us to finalize and submit which of the legislative priorities are important for us as a school district. Just as a reminder, within your packet, you see all those listed that are recommendations or potential options. We can custom fit some of those as well. Last year, we selected number 27, which was the SAVE extension, which, again, I think all of us are happy to say that that was achieved last legislative session. 28, which is the bond issues, and that was to move bond issues to a simple majority vote for approval. And again, that is something that now we've kind of moved past, which again, we're all very excited about. And then 29 was really that expansion of educational opportunities, focused on the fact that any charter schools or any expansion of flexible programs should be in partnership with public schools and being able to utilize public dollars for those purposes. So I think it really talks a lot about different voucher programs. So really it's discussion of the board to decide which of these would make sense for when we do select who is going to be the person that goes to the ISAB convention to speak on our behalf, that they have a clarity on which ones we select.
Thoughts from the board?
I will just mention that the UEN legislative priorities for this year include continued focus on increasing SSA amounts. You know, it increased by 2.06% last year, but it still lags behind the expenses that districts are facing. And so that's, I think, an important piece. They also emphasized funding formulas that emphasize student needs. So there was no poverty weighting last year added. And at-risk students, I think, you know, having weighting for at-risk students is important. And I personally feel that additional support of preschool programming would be a cost benefit to districts that would avoid the need for additional costs later on in a student's academic career. And then mental health is another really important piece that I think everybody's facing, and there was a good scaffolding put forward by the legislature last year, but there's no funding attached to that and no real details in terms of how that's going to impact schools. And so I think continuing to push for that piece is important. And then the final piece that I could use some feedback, because I'll be going to Des Moines later this month to talk again with the Legislative Resolution Committee, is about local control and flexibility. Are there other pieces involved that would benefit our district in terms of local control or flexibility?
I mean, what I like that we've done as a board is we really have focused on some very important ones rather than agree with 3/4 of what's on here, which we probably agree with most everything that's on here. But I've liked that we have limited our support to those that directly impact us. And the two that did jump out at me were mental health and expanding educational opportunities. But I would, look to you, Andy. Are there any other within the list that you do feel, with where we are at right now, where we're moving as a district, would be very important for us to lobby for? And I think we've also done a good job of targeting those that we actually think we can impact, rather than some that we know everyone puts out just for the sake of saying it, but there's really not a lot of option for moving that forward. So
To me, and both of you hit on this, mental health and meeting the needs of all of our kids as we look at providing educational opportunities that serve the whole child are a challenge. There's not funding behind those, nor are there necessarily local or statewide supports that might meet the needs of adolescents and early adults. So I think that is something we really need to continue to advocate for, to help people understand that this is something that is a challenge across our society, certainly across our community, across our state, across our country. The other one I would mention, and it's one that we did have last year, is just that underneath governance, that expanding educational opportunities. We know that there are some limitations as far as looking at some magnet opportunities, some really unique learning clusters within school frameworks that we need. And again, it goes back to local control, the opportunity to have some flexibility to expand educational opportunities, because we're really tied down to some of the requirements with offer to teach, some of the requirements that must be in place per Iowa code, that sometimes it's more based on antiquated modeling, and sometimes not always what's based on, again, trying to serve the whole child, to do what's best for kids in a unique, flexible, dynamic environment. So I think that one encompasses a lot. It's going to be hard to really, I think, articulate that, especially at the legislative level, but expanding educational opportunities to create flexibility is going to be important.
do you think, given last year's weather issues, that would be folded into that with the potential to offer online learning opportunities rather than a snow day?
So that is one of the bullets in there, is the online learning opportunities. And I think that's an important point, because right now in Iowa code, you can't do some of the offer and teach requirements or have what is really defined in Iowa code face-to-face teaching, which is a requirement of a day of or an hour of educational quality, does not meet that within Iowa code. So you cannot provide online opportunities during snow days or other learning environments to make up inclement weather days. So I think that is something that is addressed in this bulletin. It's important, again, as we look at flexibility on how do we serve and what's best for our kids locally, to make those determinations here is something that is much needed.
It does seem too that if we're able to come forward with some ideas, some specific ideas of how we might look at the Iowa code and adjust things so that we do have more of that local control, that doesn't often have a funding piece attached to it. And so there's more likelihood that the legislature will say, okay, we can, if you're presenting a good argument here, it's not going to cost us additional money, so this is something that we can move forward with. So.
And that's such an interesting, you asked that question when you first became part of the ISAB process when it comes to the legislative priorities and in that group. It's a fault of mine when we sometimes face Iowa code challenges. You just say Iowa code doesn't allow that, you move on. So I've been trying to do a better job of denoting times when we say Iowa code doesn't allow that. Let's mark that down so we can bring that up later, so we can have a better conversation about some of those barriers and or frustrations we have when there's something we want to do that is flexible in nature, but it's not allowed underneath Iowa code. So should have a little bit better clarity on some of those specifically.
Great.
Anyone else? So I wrote down just, I wrote down 20, I think. And then 20 is SSA, 7 is mental health, local control and flexibility, to Andy's previous point, is number 29. I'm sorry, I missed the preschool one.
Number 3, I believe.
Number 3 at the top, okay. Number 3. Were there others that I missed when I was writing these down?
The other one that I heard was number 19, which was kind of the school funding policy, flexibility in funding to meet either inequalities or inequities, or the actual costs of different services based on the needs across the district.
Do you feel like school calendars is now, I mean, after they were, came and talked to the committee and asked for their recommendation and then completely ignored that recommendation due to the strong lobby of the state fair and our tourism board, do you think that is a non-negotiable from here on out, at least for the near term?
We have been told that is a non-negotiable, that won't be brought back up, at least in the near term. So of the ones I heard, the one that I would probably recommend, because I think they recommend either 3 to 4, would be to maybe not have number 19, the flexibility. Although that is, I think, great for across the state. It's something that might not impact our district specifically as we look at transportation funding, just due to the fact that we don't have a large geographic region. We have students that might be at risk or students that might have some other socioeconomic challenges, but when we look statewide, we are very low compared to other districts. So the funding behind that, even though, again, important statewide, might not have a local impact to Cedar Falls.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but was that the area that there's some flexibility for districts and part of busing that was decided a couple years ago? Am I saying that right?
They did, yes. They provided some additional funding this year for busing, and they knew that would not make up the gap between the largest geographic busing districts versus the smallest, but there was some funding put into place for those transportation costs for some districts. There was some flexibility put in 2 years ago for use of again, there's 2 different funding sources, at-risk dollars and dropout prevention dollars, and there's additional flexibility on how we use those. And typically, we will use those for some of our mental health counselors and mental health therapists that come into our buildings from outside services.
Speaking of mental health, I know that your staff in the district has already been thinking about and actually addressing some mental health needs. So maybe it's too early to discuss and talk, but you will be adding and supporting what has already started and continue to move forward and look comprehensively with all grades.
Exactly, and I think we're unique as a district and very, I think, proud that we really moved forward with some mental health supports, working with other community providers roughly 4 years ago now, to be able to have mental health certified counselors and support individuals in each of our buildings throughout a weekly cycle. And that, again, is so beneficial to be able to help work through maybe some challenge areas, maybe work with individual families and students to be able to provide some coping opportunities or other opportunities, but also just sometimes with de-escalation or other needs as they arise. And we can't be more pleased with that arrangement, certainly working with our local providers. This year, actually, we are moving up another half-time person, so we'll actually have 2.5 mental health support personnel within our district this year, and certainly not enough, but certainly it's something that we are very proud of as a district to be able to have that in place, where a lot of other districts are really struggling to figure out what to do or how to provide that support.
And Andy, this is just kind of an addition to, not necessarily, I know we are lucky enough that we benefited from our community supporting us for our bond effort, but knowing that other districts have faced the same challenges to have to go through multiple bond efforts before, and others will be in the same boat that we've been in, could we put together, knowing that we have 2 local legislators with Dave Williams and Eric Giddens, I mean, it would be interesting to know through the cost of a bond election, through the placement of portables, through the escalation of construction costs through inflation, really what from our first bond till now, what it has just cost in those costs for other districts, because even though we're not, hopefully we are set to go, and it'll set us up for a great future here and without controversy, knowing other districts are going to be facing that. I think it's important for our legislators to understand these things are still happening, but because of the structure of the current code, that's money that just is going to waste. So I think it'd be helpful for them to know that, and for us to know that as well.
I think we can put together pretty good numbers on what that looked like.
Good suggestion.
Interesting.
Okay, others. So we need to narrow this down, maybe. So Dr. Petit recommended maybe taking 19 off, which I'm seeing 27, 3, and 29. And we could go with 4.
Correct.
We've gone with 4 before. Thoughts?
Well, and it won't be as though other schools won't have mostly these same 4 on their list, I wouldn't think either. So it's not like we're asking IASB to make a big stretch, I think, when we include all 4 of these items.
Agreed.
Well, and there will be a narrowing down process. There will be, they'll do a ranking from all of the districts. So we can put forward what we're suggesting, and that will show up then in that ranking. So it was 23, 7, and what was the fourth one?
29.
29. Thank you.
Are we okay with that?
23, which one was it?
It's 20, and then Sasha said
20.
3.
23.
And then
Okay.
7 and 29, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move those forward, and will you send those on for us?
I will send them on to IASB, and then also make sure that I get a copy out to all the board members and just a succinct one page.
And thank you for supporting us down
Oh,
there, Sasha, too.
absolutely. Yep,
We appreciate that.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on now to the Board of Education goals. So what we're asking for at this time would be a committee that would be willing to meet with Andy, and I don't know if you want to send out a Google Doc with some times.
Yes.
But we would like to talk about who might like to be on that committee. So it's to set our board goals for this upcoming year.
Do you remember who sat on which committees last year?
I believe I was on that one.
I'll have that.
I was on Dr. Patti's, I know that.
And I did not go back to look at those committee assignments.
How many board members is it normally 2?
Usually 2 or 3.
2 or 3?
So board goal last year, I think, was Joyce and Jeff Hassman. And superintendent goal was Susie and Sasha.
There you go.
I don't think I've ever sat on the superintendent goals. I'll sit on that one.
If it helps, there is a Google Doc in our drive called Board Committee.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to serve on the board goal committee.
Great.
And I can as well.
And I'll be happy to serve on either one.
Perfect. Thank you.
It was on there. I thought it was.
Is the bus full?
No, please.
The board goals would be, I think, helpful for me, just a steep learning curve over here on this end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've all been in that chair.
Yes, we have.
Some of us are just so close to it.
Okay, so we've got kind of a committee or a list of names for the board goals, and we kind of did the superintendents at the same time.
Perfect.
Okay, you're okay with that? Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, item J on the agenda is the approval of the superintendent contract. So at the beginning of the year, we always do a mid-year evaluation with Andy, and it's kind of a dipstick, it's just to see where, I'm not calling you that. Sorry, it sounded like that, didn't it? We kind of test the water and just see where are you at with the goals, and what can we do to help you? How is it looking for our district? are you going to meet those goals? Do we need to change those goals? And just kind of overall giving us an update on those goals. And then this time of year, we come and talk about the year-end goals and how they were accomplished. And we do the Iowa School, SAI.
SAI, School Administrators of Iowa.
Yes,
Yep.
their survey. And this is the end of a 3-year, so we all took part in a survey, and then we meet with Andy and present that information to him. We are very pleased that Andy is here, and all of us just feel confident that this year, really, you led the district into a successful bond referendum for the high school, along, and I'm going to use Jeff Orvis's, what he alluded to, that you kept all the plates going this year, and that was challenging, and we just appreciate that. At this time, I'd love anybody else that would like to say something. This would be a great opportunity to do that. Okay?
What I would say, I ran into Dr. Dan Smith just a few weeks ago down in Des Moines, and it was interesting as we were talking just about Cedar Falls, and I just said I continuously always hear about him and some of the things that he did while he was here, and his response was, in my mind, it's the best district in the state, and I would echo that. It's just an honor to be here, and we have the best staff in the world, as we talk about. It's a tremendous community, and I just want to thank not only each of the board members, but our community, just for all that they've done, certainly the last year, but just as each and every day, what they do to support our district and our kids.
Thank you.
Andy, I would just say that, one of our mantras here at Cedar Falls has been a tradition of excellence, and we do have a fantastic district, and we have a lot of great people and great things that have been happening for years, but I'm nearing the end of my tenure with having kids in the district. I have one more for a couple more years, and I'm really disappointed in the respect that I think my kids have missed out on a lot of the progressive and really innovative things we're doing now as a district, and so I just want to thank you for that, because I think we are not only showing a tradition of excellence, but we are leading the way towards some really innovative teaching changes for our students that are really going to benefit them, not only when they go to college, but just when they really go into the real world, and they're going to have experiences that a lot of kids are not going to have. So thank you for supporting, all the new programs that we're going out, and just the kind of learning that they're getting to, because not every district can say that, so.
Thank you.
I would add, the work that you do within the district to build community and to encourage collaboration through all of our buildings is amazing. But this high school bond vote has also demonstrated your tremendous ability to communicate out to our community members at large and really be the face of our school district. And you just did such a wonderful job at that. And I look forward to seeing you continue to do that as we now get to go through the exciting process of building a new high school. So thank you for what you do in the district and what you do to help our community understand what our district is all about.
Thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's contract?
I move that the Board of Education of Cedar Falls Community School District issue a 3-year contract to Dr. Andrew R. Petit as Superintendent of Schools with a total package increase of 2.53%, including a salary of $198,600 and other applicable benefits.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Patsy.
No, thank you.
Okay, moving on now to the superintendent's report.
Just a couple different items. Superintendent's report, the all-school welcome is Wednesday, August 21st. It's always a fun morning, neat opportunity when all staff comes back together for the first time, and the energy, the excitement, the anticipation is just contagious. So certainly invite all board members to attend that. Again, facility discussion, we're ongoing with our discussion as we finalize our design team and construction manager and different components, and actually have started to work on setting design team discussions with departments at our high school that are going to take place first couple weeks in September. So that movement is occurring, and it's going to be so exciting just to start getting some of the input, because we know the design development process is going to be probably 8 to 9 months just to get all of the insights and inputs and how we utilize spaces. We are working to set some visits up to Minneapolis to start looking at some of the schools up there, recent high schools. We had some board members and some of our staff that went south to Kansas City here a few months ago, so it'll be another opportunity to go and look at new designs, which is really, really exciting.
Andy, will you just reiterate our anticipated open date for the new high school?
Well, that is something that we are now continuously trying to pinpoint. Throughout the bond process, it was August of 2023. Depending on when we can bid, it could change that slightly. So we are trying to pin that down a little bit based on bid time, based on when we can work the land, because we know we won't be able to do some of the groundwork until at the earliest this spring, but potentially that could get pushed back on timing. So the worst case scenario could be August of 24, but the hope is August of 23.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Pattee? Thank you. Questions or comments from board members?
Just one thing, I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but it would be nice to get an update once we get back into the swing of things. But we did offer a summer CAPS program this year, of which my daughter took part. And I wish we had filmed the students giving their presentations, because hearing the students talk about it is so much more compelling than anything any of us at this table are going to say. But it would be great to bring some of those students in maybe this fall to just be able to either share their presentation. Really, they talked about what the CAPS program meant for them, so even just hearing the presentations they gave to each other, I believe there were 5 total, would be amazing for us to hear how just even a exploratory program, it wasn't based on any specific strand, it was just an exploratory program for high school credit only, but even something like that, the impact it had on the kids. So that'd be great if we could have that as a board topic this fall.
I'd agree, because it's amazing when our CAP students start that program, where they finish and when they reflect on the learning that they've had, the opportunities that they have. It's amazing to hear the growth, see the growth as they're presenting. So our plan was to be able to have CAPS come and present. More than likely, it could be either at the beginning of the school year to have some of our summer CAP students come, but it could be towards the end of semester as well, as we end our first semester with CAP, so we can have some of those students come and give some of their end-of-year summaries that they do not only to community members, but sometimes faculty and staff and other individuals. So it's really impactful when they lend their voice to their learning.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I know that one of our goals is usually visiting with the PTAs. I think we had a lot of weather disruptions in January and February. I'd like to see maybe if we could try to get that moved up sooner, especially for the schools that we did not get to meet with last year. So I would be willing to go ahead and compile those dates again and get them to Dr. Pattee so we could take a look at earlier, maybe even, sometimes I know we often link that with our Board of Ed visits to the PLCs, but maybe this time we say, you know what, let's get to the parents and those groups a little ahead of schedule.
Great idea.
Everybody feel okay with that? Okay. Thank you, Susie, for championing that. Okay. If we don't have anything else, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the Cedar Falls Board of Education enter into closed session to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate, only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. The minutes and the audio recording of a session closed under this paragraph shall be available for public examination when the transaction discussed is completed under 2011 Iowa Code 21.51J.
Thank you, Jenny. Do I have a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded by Susie. This will be a roll call vote.
President Coyle,
Yes.
Director Heiskamp,
Yes.
Director Hines,
Yes.
Director Lieber,
Yes.
Director Orvis,
Yes.
Director Wolpert.
Yes.
There will not be any action after the closed session, but we will adjourn the meeting following the closed session.
We will now go to the back room into closed session. Thank you.